Hi everyone, Patrick Menninga here, spiritualriver.com. I want to talk to you today about drug abuse, drug addiction, alcoholism, and how those things can all lead into treatment and hopefully getting help for the person who's struggling. So what's the difference between drug abuse and drug addiction? Well, abuse can happen to anyone. Anyone can abuse drugs and not necessarily turn into a drug addict or someone who has a lifetime struggle with addiction. So a lot of teens and kids and younger people will at some point experiment with drugs in one form or another. Maybe it's just heavy drinking, maybe they'll smoke marijuana, maybe they'll try something else, maybe they'll take some pain pills and take a few too many, whatever the case may be. Those are all examples of drug abuse. So the person is taking drugs that they're not necessarily prescribed, that they don't necessarily need, they're taking them recreationally. That's drug abuse. So the person who's doing that may not be a drug addict. They may not have this lifelong struggle of addiction that the alcoholic and the drug addict falls into. So addiction is defined by someone who is experiencing serious negative consequences as a result of their drug or alcohol habit, and yet they continue to pursue their drinking or drug use, even in the face of heavy consequences. Now, there's a lot of other definitions out there of what addiction really is. There's a medical definition, there's a DSM-4 definition, there's all kinds of definitions, but a good working definition that relates to treatment and your need to take action would be, is this a problem in your life, and is it controlling you even when you try to overcome it? In other words, the drug addict who has gotten to the point where they've said, I wish I could fix this, and they're trying and they can't, that's someone with a real problem. So once it's a problem like that and you realize it and you've broken through that level of denial, it's time to ask for help. So if your drug abuse has progressed to that point, you've experimented, and now you're dependent on the drug and you have to use it even against your own will. You don't really want to be addicted anymore, but you are. Then it's time to ask for help. And you don't want to progress to the point where there's no turning back, or where there's a fatal drug overdose, or where you hurt yourself or someone else to the point where you end up in prison. All of those outcomes are going to happen for someone who's a real drug addict or alcoholic. It just keeps getting worse and worse. The consequences keep getting worse, and you just spiral out of control until you hit various dead ends: prison, jail, death, all of these things. So if you can realize that and sort of break through that level of denial and say, okay, this has gone beyond what I can control, I'm no longer in control, I have to use drugs or alcohol against my own will, now it's time to ask for help. Get on the phone, call up a treatment center, see what it takes to get into treatment, and make the call that could be the one that could turn your life around and get you on the road to recovery.